Welcome to the Red White News Show with Dean McMurray, the military media.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another great episode of the Red, White, and You Show with yours truly, the military medium. Today I have with me the artist behind Private Murphy's Law. If you remember Private Murphy, for those of you that have read Army Times for years, Private Murphy was in there, and then also on social media everywhere else. So if you're a fan of Private Murphy, you're going to love our next guest, Mark Baker. Mark, welcome to the Red White News Show, man.
Hi, Dean. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, this is take two. For everybody who doesn't know that we did this quite a while back, and then when I went to air Mark's episode, the audio was just, I don't know what happened. So I was like, oh, well, hey, I guess we'll redo it again. So, number two. So, but anyways, Mark, for those maybe that aren't aware of your works or maybe aware of you, can you kind of in a snippet tell us a little bit who Mark Baker is?
I'm a retired Army Master Sergeant, and while I was on active duty, I did a cartoon called Private Murphy or Private Murphy's Law. I just call Private Murphy now. So it had a run 12, 13 years in the Army time, so a lot of people are familiar with it from that. But prior to that, it was in some papers like Paraglide at Fort Bragg, and whatever the paper there is in Hawaii at 25th ID. And I don't know, that's about it. I don't know what else to say.
That's all right. No, that was great. So you're in the military or at the time you were in the military. So bring us through kind of what was the birth of Private Murphy? How did you even get into drawing cartoons? Was it something that you always enjoyed doing, or was it something that you just did to pass the time?
Yeah, well, I've always liked to draw, and I've always wanted to be a comic book artist. And let's see, so after my first stint in the Army, I have a break in service. I had my first 5 years or so. I got out and was going to school, and I did a cartoon. That's the first time I actually tried doing a cartoon. No one knows about this cartoon. It's called Far and Cars, about these two mice. It was kind of a college related silliness. And then I got recalled for Desert Storm. And then after that, I was released from active duty again. And I got home. I was, in financial, I was wiped out financially. I was in a bad position. And it's almost like they were tracking me, because I hit the door and the phone's ringing, and it's the recruiter saying, hey, Sergeant Baker, I see you just got out of the Army. Would you like to come back in? And of course I said, absolutely. I would have done anything. But he gave me a really cool job. And so I came back in, and, I still was thinking about, cartooning, and, the Army gives you so much material every day, something funny that you can, poke some fun at. It doesn't necessarily have to be malicious. I like to think that I'm not malicious with my cartoons, but just observations every day that are, that can be fun. And I knew if they were, if these are things that I was seeing and I could, make jokes about, that I'm sure it was other people could relate to that. So I started doing the cartoon, but it was only for, initially it was just with the guys that were in my, in my group, in my team, inside jokes. And they talked me into, taking it further than that.
Sure. Well, it's interesting because I draw a correlation between your cartoons and I remember as a kid, not that, in the library they had old, I think they were called Willie and Joe, old copies of Stars and Stripes back from the 40s in the library. And I remember reading, and not that any of that was ever political, but I think the correlation that I always remember, and especially with Private Murphy, was how it's a way, it's a medium or a platform to share a commonality with other troops. And I think the last one, it was interesting because sometimes there's some ridiculousness, right? So like, that you have to go through in the military. I think there was, one that you did with a sketch with PT belts, right? Of course, it gets to the point where it's just absolutely crazy, the rules that they put with PT belts and or different things, and where people can find a commonality with, things that other people are going through. Do you also find that with your works or your drawings that people are able to find that they're able to laugh at difficult things, a bit of healing maybe in it?
Sure. I mean, I hope so. I have had soldiers tell me that my cartoons got them through some tough times on deployments and stuff, which I think is, I never think about anything like that, or,
Right.
I mean, I sure, my intention is to make people laugh, but I never really thought that, I don't see my cartoon as having an impact on people's lives.
Right.
It's just a cartoon. It's just some drawings and a gag. But I have had soldiers tell me that, like, oh, I was going through a tough time and I saw your cartoon. To me, it's, that's such a fantastic thing. It makes, obviously it makes me feel
right
really good,
So tell us kind of, you mentioned kind of in a nutshell, kind of how you were pushed to, or encouraged, I should share, is to really take your the cartoon into the bigger mainstream instead of just with like the team or with their unit. But share with us, if you would, the kind of the birth of really in the beginning, how you even got Private Murphy or any of your sketches into the papers.
Yeah. Okay. So, I was doing like inside jokes for the guys in my unit, like I said before, and they weren't, some were pretty raunchy. Some aren't ones that I'm particularly proud of. And, I definitely wouldn't post them or publish them today, but it was, inside joke Army stuff. It wasn't really for a wider audience, but, the guys were telling me, hey, you really need to take us down to Paraglide and see if you put this in the paper. I knew there was no way I was going to do that, but I did have an idea of something I could do. The first cartoon I really did, it wasn't even a Private Murphy cartoon. It was just the 5 points of performance, the 5 airborne points of performance. I did a cartoon about that, and I brought it to the editor of the Paraglide, and he liked it, but he told me, I don't want to do just a one-time thing. He said, if you can, I want to do something every week. Can you do that? Can you bring me something every week? And, I said yes, even though I wasn't sure if I could or not. And I went home and thought about it and, decided what I was going to do is, have this soldier. I had a buddy, his last name was Murphy. I just took his name, and then, Murphy's Law, just incorporate that. That was the title. And I just started off with a kid at the MEP station, or not even the MEP station, at the recruiting station. I figured I'm just going to take this character from being recruited, basic training, jump school, onto his unit and so forth. And, and have like a somewhat of a living, breathing character, not to knock on Beetle Bailey, but was a private for like 50 years. I wanted a character that actually grew and, and achieved, got promoted and so forth. And so, that's it. I started out with some cartoons about, him at the recruiting office and took it from there. And then it just went. It happened.
Well, I know anybody at Fort Bragg knows, the legacy of Paraglide, right? And talking about the, really just the the aspect of bringing that. But it was interesting because Private Murphy was really an iconic piece of Stars and Stripes, the Army Times. When was the first episode aired in Army Times?
I think November 2000 was the first.
Okay.
But I had been sending them cartoons for quite some time, and as well as other places. But I got stationed in DC. I got stationed at Fort Belvoir, where the Army Times, or whatever, the Military Times newspaper group is published there. So the building is there. And so I went to their offices, and, it's easy to tell someone, back then, this is really, there were computers and stuff, but not the same. There wasn't Facebook and other social media. But it's easy to say no in an email to someone or to their letter or whatever. It's a little harder when you're standing right in front of them. And so I went there and, as a human being, and, my hat in my hand, pleading for them to put the cartoon in the paper. And so they said they'd give it a try and see if it was a fit for them. And I said, cool, that's all I'm asking for, a shot, put it in there and see what people think. And it ran thereafter for, like I said, 11, 12 years.
Very cool. That's very cool. So as Murphy progressed, as the storyline really progressed, I think Murphy now is, good Lord, I think now he's actually a first sergeant, isn't he?
Just a staff.
Oh, he's a staff sergeant. Okay. I was going to say, but I know that through the years is that, it's always interesting, the different dynamics, situations, and deployments that Murphy finds himself in. What were some of the difficulties that you found? And I know you were saying that in the early days, it was the barriers because, you needed to find a platform to publish it in because you didn't have social media like we do now, like where you can just, kind of do it on the computer, but you kind of needed a platform or whatever. What were some of the early challenges that you faced to kind of get Murphy out there?
Well, just like you just outlined, back then there had to be a medium. If you, as a cartoonist or a writer or whatever, if you're a writer, you want to get your stories in a magazine. If you're a cartoonist, you want to get your cartoons in a paper or magazine. So in submitting these things, you have to get them by an editor, and an editor may like your work or not like your work, So, but you still have that you still have to convince that one person to, give you a shot, because
right.
Like now, anyone can do some type of creative endeavor, put their work up on the internet, put it on Facebook, and they'll get immediate feedback from, it can be hundreds of thousands of people,
mm-hmm.
And, so they'll get some good feedback, some bad feedback or whatever. But back then, if you weren't even going to get that feedback until no one was going to see your work unless you got it into one of these mediums.
Right.
And you had to get past the gatekeeper, and the gatekeeper is that editor.
Right. Well, you talk about that now. The dynamic has really changed, right? With the invention of internet's been around for a long time, but really when everybody has a computer and really social media, giving people that platform or that medium, as you say, just kind of throwing it out there. And so getting that immediate feedback, right? Now also it's almost like the dynamic is changing again, because we're seeing people in this, what they're calling this cancel culture, right? People being almost overly, I don't want to say sensitive, but in a sense, I don't know if they're just taking offense or if they're just trying to tear others down. But when they disagree or not like something, they just tend to try to destroy others instead of just moving on with their life. has Murphy and the progression of that, has there been some challenges with that along the way?
For me personally, I mean, no, I mean, not really, not for me. I mean, not so much. I mean, I've had my share of problems, just like I think everybody else that's doing this type of stuff. There's like, look, anytime you put something out to a wide audience, there's going to be some people who like it, some people who don't like it. There's going to be, angry people who take like this irrational offense to whatever it is. And I don't know. I mean, I can see it in some cases. Maybe, I'm not out there insulting people's moms and stuff, but maybe you make a derogatory, image about a particular leader that they worked for and they revere. Okay. Or a certain army fort or whatever, who knows? But in any case, there's, I don't know. I worry. I just put something out on my Facebook page about this because there were some complaints and Facebook shut me down for a little bit, gave me a warning. And the thing is, they don't even let you know what it is specifically that you did. They'll just tell you your content violated our guidelines. And it just leaves you wondering, like, okay, well, what did I do? And then what it instills in you is that fear of like, okay, well, what can I do and what can't I do? I don't even know what I did wrong. I mean, you can't correct a mistake if you don't know what it was you did, right?
Right.
So, I was thinking about this for a while, and I just decided that I don't care. I'm just going to, I'm not going to let this get to me. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I'm going to post the cartoons. I'm going to post stuff that I think is funny. And if other people think it's funny, cool. There's a select few that don't think it's funny. I even put it out, just keep scrolling, if you got or put a comment, I mean, I welcome, people getting on there and, shit talking. I mean, it's a military themed site of cartoons. People want to get on there and talk trash to me or others. I don't care. I mean, I don't think anybody's feelings or skin is that thin. I mean, I can take it. But if you do want to cancel me, if you want to go to the platform and say, hey, I don't like this guy is doing for whatever reason. I mean, it could be a personal reason. I mean, there's people out there that don't like me personally. Besides my cartoon, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And if they see that as a way to hurt me, this cartoon should be shut down. Well, one, what can you do about it? There's nothing you can do about that. That's okay. But two, it's just a weird thing that, this cancel culture or whatever I'm talking is like, let the free market, let the free market do its own thing. If I see that I'm losing a bunch of people, my followers start dropping, that's enough of an indication to me that I'm doing something that people aren't enjoying. Maybe I need to change it up.
Right.
But if it's just one or two people that want to complain to the platform, it's this type of stuff. I think it's ridiculous. It's just silly.
That makes complete sense. I wanted to switch gears a little bit. I'm just looking on Amazon here. Do you have the 5 books on Amazon? The paperback, Private Murphy's Law, the one that from 99, the best of the best, Private Murphy's Law cartoon collection, Murphy 2020, PV2 Murphy, The Adventures Continues, PFC Murphy book 3. Does that make sense? About 5 books? Is there about 5 in the series?
Yeah, there's like 5 in the series, and there's a couple separate ones. Like you said, the best of the best with Honor, Murphy in color. Yeah. So the first 5 books, the originals, they're out of print. You can only find them from people that have them. I've seen people selling them on eBay and stuff. Of course, I'm not making any revenue off of that. So Amazon has this thing called print on demand. So if you want to do a book, instead of finding a printer or a publisher or any of these other things to produce a book, and go straight to Amazon. You can, you format your book, you upload it to Amazon, and then you Amazon tells you this is how much it's going to cost per unit to make these things, set your profit above this, and that's the difference is what your royalty will be. But, it's great if you want to publish a book and have zero overhead and zero risk. But as far as income, it's really terrible. So the book, I think do you have it up on the thing right now?
I have on Amazon here.
Right, the best of the best of the best of primary. How much is the price on that?
So the best of the best, $14 paperback. Yeah. Okay,
so that $14 paperback, the print on the demand, how it works is when someone wants the book, they order it from Amazon. Amazon prints the book, then sends it to them like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that $14.95, I don't know what it really costs Amazon to produce a book. I know when I printed, when I got a print company to print the books myself, I could get a book like that book 5. I could get that book printed by a print shop for about 65 cents a piece. But with that, you had to have a huge order. I had to order 10,000 books to get that price. So in any case, so Amazon, they're charging $14.95 to get this book out to people. I set the royalty payment from at 10 cents. So for every one of these books that sells, I make a dime, and Amazon makes whatever the difference is of whatever it costs them to produce the book and that $14.95, right? So it's zero risk to me, but it's also almost zero profit to me. Whereas before, it was a risk because I printed all these books. I take $7,000, get 10,000 books printed, and then I have to sell them myself. But of course, but when you're selling a book for $14 that you got for 65 cents, there's a huge profit there, right?
Right.
But there's also a huge risk. The first time I printed books, I only got 2,000 books made. They cost me $1 a piece, and it was at a time when I was like an E5 or maybe staff sergeant E6 in Hawaii. And I thought, okay, well, I have to sell these. I should be able to sell these 2,000 books pretty readily, but I didn't. So I took what was pretty much my life savings to get 2,000 books printed up. I sold like 30 books in the course of a year. My wife was livid. And, but anyway, then after that, that's when I PCS to Washington, DC, to Fort Belvoir. And after that, I was able to sell more books. I found a distributor. I went off on this whole tangent. I don't even know where I'm going with this, but anyway, those books on Amazon, I have an author's page up there. I'm saying the book sales, it's just cool if you want to get a book, but I'm really not making any money off the bat, is what I'm saying. That,
right.
For me to continue doing this cartooning and stuff, as a living, I pretty much live off of a site called Patreon, where I have supporters that they donate to me there to help, to allow me to do this full time. Right.
No, what is your Patreon site? What is that?
Patreon, they misspelled on purpose. Patreon.com/Charlie Mike Comics with an X, COMIX.
Well, and if you go to Private Murphy on Facebook too, under the About tab, you can they got a link right there that'll take you directly to your site as well, I believe.
Yes, it'll take
as,
you.
As I'm clicking on it here. Yeah. And then you can pick, would you like a $1 a month, 3, 10, or more? So, and it goes from there. So I think that's great. So what's new? What's new in the hopper for Mark Baker? I know that now, do you do anything with GI Low? I know that's, or is that something that you share? Is that by somebody else or is that you?
No, it's so the author of GI Low is a gentleman by the name of Pete Barlow, and he's active duty, just came off the trail. He was a drill sergeant out here at Paducah, and we met up online actually, but stationed here, we've got together and collaborated on a couple of cartoons together, and yeah, so he's a different cartoonist.
Ah, nice. Okay, I just saw that you had shared. I'm obviously on the Facebook site, and I was in. Obviously, I've looking at every once in a while it'll pop up as far as different renditions of that. But yeah, so. But no, it's funny as well. So if you guys haven't checked it out, check that out. It's as well as the excerpts from Private Murphy. It's really cool because the thing, as I scroll around here, one of the things that you did was a monthly Patreon giveaway, and there was a 3D printed Murphy toy. So kind of like looked like a green Gumby, but kind of like a little soldier, but it's Private Murphy holding an M4. So you got some really kind of cool stuff that you that give away to some of your the followers of the page. It's kind of cool if folks haven't checked it out before.
Yeah, depending on your level. I mean, there's loot that goes. There's cups and stickers and stuff. Signed, I do signed prints for like the $25 members. But
sure,
like you said, and I'm glad you brought that up. So every month on the 15th, I take everybody who's a patron. Right now, there's only 100 left, these folks, but I'll put them in a bowl, shake them up, have my wife pull out a name, and they win something, whether it's a toy or a signed print or a book or a series of books, or so I have a monthly gift.
Nice.
In addition to that stuff.
That's really cool. I love it. So I asked you, and I don't think I think I started rambling on, but what's new for Mark Baker? What's new in the hopper? Anything new on the horizon?
I mean, besides Murphy, I've been this whole series of Charlie and Mike comics. I've been taking soldiers' deployment stories and illustrating them. With they're cartoony pictures, but they're real stories, and they're
right.
Some are, pretty intense, and yeah. So I'm doing that, and I'm currently working on a comic book about the Harlem Hellfighters, which it's complete work of fiction, and I've messed everything up historically. So, but I'm pretty excited about that. I'm almost done. I probably have 6 more pages to go before I can turn that into, upload it onto Amazon so it can be purchased as an actual hard copy comic. But like I said, I've always wanted to be a comic book artist. And so once this thing is done, I feel like I'll have achieved that, childhood dream.
Right. I was just checking out the Charlie Mike comic page and some of the sketches. Do you find now? I see there was something. Well, I'm scrolling too much. So you do some sketching online. You with like Sketchpad, I believe it is. Do you prefer doing online, or do you still prefer the old stubby pencil, so to speak?
I've really transitioned away from doing the pen and pencil type stuff, I have here's my tablet right here.
Sure.
Sorry about that.
No, that's all right.
I mean, it's a small tablet, and it takes some getting used to at first because you're drawing down here, but you're looking up on the screen to see what's happening. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I have not really, other than like I'll do a quick layout sometimes, but mostly I've been doing everything with this tablet and using Photoshop and Illustrator and stuff like that. Right. I mean, before I used to draw the cartoons with initially I started drawing the cartoons with an ink pen, and that's how I would submit them. I'd actually mail them to the Army Times.
Okay.
And then afterwards I would, I got to the point where I was drawing them, then I would scan them into the computer, bring them up in Photoshop. That way I could color and shade them and do the text and all that, which works a lot better, And now pretty much, like I said, it's all on the tablet, right in the computer. So, nice. I mean, the bad thing is you don't have any original art to give to anyone.
Oh, sure.
Not real original art.
Right. Right.
So,
okay. Well, maybe one day when you're old and gray, Mark, and like something
hard there.
Well, like the crumpled piece of paper or the hardboard press board or something that you did a long time ago will certainly be auctioned off for a good cause or something, bringing in lots of money. I think it's great because not only are you kind of bridging that gap, but you're also helping folks. So where do you see this going? Have you ever thought about it? What you might be, where you might be taking Charlie, Mike, and Murphy into, the next 10 years or so?
No, I mean, really, I really don't look that far ahead. Every time, I've been doing this for so long. There's been so many times I didn't think I had another cartoon in me. There's times when I had the deadline of the Army Times, I only had to do 4 cartoons a month, but still I was struggling. And
what do you do when you hit a block?
Panic, especially if you have a deadline.
Well, I think that's a pretty honest answer. Like we panic. That's what we do, Dean.
Sure.
I was expecting some big I go into a meditative state and I become one with myself, and now I just start panicking.
No, yeah. You either, you steal from somebody else, or you come up with the lamest thing ever, or whatever.
But no,
I've got some terrible cartoons out there. I mean, my readers could probably see the weeks I was struggling, like, what the hell is this one about? But yeah, I don't know. I don't have a. I don't have a. I do have a creative process, but I don't know if there's a technique,
Sure. Well, it works for you anyways. It has and how many years since you began, how many years has it, Mark, since you've been, drawing and submitting?
30 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's, really cool, but yeah, it's crazy that it's been that long. So it's very,
you're telling me.
You're like, yeah, you're not the one.
I don't feel as old as I am. I'm,
right. Let me ask you, Mark, where can they go? What's the social media platforms that you're on, and any websites or anything that if they want to check everything out, where can they do that?
Well, I don't have a website. It just wasn't cost effective. No one was going to it. I'm on a site called MeWe. It's like Facebook, another social media type site. It's Private Murphy there on that site, and Private Murphy on Facebook. I mean, I have some other accounts, like there is a Twitter account and a Instagram, I think, but I really don't know how to use that stuff, and so I don't spend any time on there. I think sometimes when you post on Facebook, it automatically goes to Instagram. Sure. I don't know about this stuff. I have become that old guy that is not technically savvy, you know.
I get it. I'm kind of there off and on myself, so I get that. Awesome. And if they want to get a hold of you, Mark, they just send you an email at mvbaker14@gmail.com.
Yep.
Perfect. And you can do it right there on the Facebook, on both Facebook pages, Charlie Mike Comic or Private Murphy. You can find it really easy. But thank you so much, Mark, for not only what you do, your service, but what you continually do. And thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule and doing a second interview. I know it's kind of a pain, but I appreciate it. And we'll look forward to getting your episode out there.
Thank you. Yeah, no worries. My pleasure.
Absolutely.